The Oppo F7. Does Oppo's new selfie expert warrant a purchase? Let's find out in today's video. Hey guys, Sundar here from C4E Tech and this is our full review of the Oppo F7. Before getting started, hit the bell icon to join our notification squad. Although Oppo calls this the selfie expert, the performance is probably the USP of the phone. It's got the new Helio P60 chip under the hood. It's an octa-core chip with 4 Cortex A53 cores and 4 Cortex A73 cores clocked at 2 GHz each. That's basically the same core configuration found in the Snapdragon 660 chip, albeit with slightly lower clock speeds. The benchmark scores indicate the same, comparable to the 660 and higher than the 636. It's not just the benchmarks guys, even in day-to-day usage, the performance has been excellent. The P60 blazes through basic tasks like opening up apps, browsing the web, scrolling through your feed and so on. It's highly unlikely to end up with stutters or lag while carrying out these day-to-day tasks. The RAM management too is quite good. The P60 chip holds its own when it comes to intensive gaming as well. We did a dedicated gaming review recently, here's a cut to it if you're interested. The F7 manages to run highly resource-intensive games like Assassin's Creed Identity at high graphics quite smoothly. There's very minor lag which doesn't really affect the overall experience. There's no signs of overheating either. The phone stays relatively cool even after long gaming sessions. That's thanks in large to the 12nm FinFET technology the P60 is manufactured on. By the way, thanks to this, the battery life's amazing too. On moderate usage, the 3400 mAh battery lasts 2 days on a single charge. My moderate usage includes half an hour of phone calls every day, 15 to 20 minutes of light gaming, 2 to 3 hours of social media loitering and instant messaging, 20 to 30 minutes of YouTube and web browsing each, a lot of push notifications, and on some days, 30 minutes of camera usage and having GPS on for navigation. With this kind of usage, I consistently ended up with 10 to 15% charge at the end of day 2. Which is incredible for a phone that's quite powerful. One of these days I decided to put this phone to the test and played a lot of graphically intensive games, tested the camera and so on, and even then I ended the day with around 25% charge left. Charging times aren't bad either, it takes just about 2 hours to get from 0 to 100. So on both performance and battery fronts, the F7 surpassed my expectations. It's great to see a MediaTek chip that has managed to turn benchmarks into practical usage finally. But if you're expecting the same from the build and design, well, you're in for disappointment. Oppo's choices here are rather unimpressive. A 20,000 plus phone with a plastic build in 2018? Not cool, Oppo. Now guys, don't get me wrong, it's not all that bad. For what it's worth, Oppo's tweaked it to make it look like a glass build. Amartya and Shahrukh were almost tricked into believing it was glass. That's probably due to the way it catches and reflects light. It looks cool. The silver rings around the camera and the fingerprint sensor give it a nice touch. So does the glossy plastic frame. It's one of those phones that look premium but don't feel premium. One advantage of not involving metal at all though is that the phone feels light in hand. It weighs in at just 158 grams. All that said, I still feel Oppo should have gone with a metal build at this price. It's also worth noting that the glossy plastic attracts a lot of smudges and drove me nuts. Another controversial decision Oppo's made here is going with the infamous notch. It's not that huge though. It houses the selfie camera, earpiece and sensors. The display area to the left and right of the notch houses the status bar, and it works the way it's expected to in most apps. Games though aren't optimized well. You cannot access a part of the interface at all. Some content hide behind the curved corners as well. It's quite evident in games like PUBG. Now talking about the display, it's a 6.28-inch 19:9 IPS LCD panel with a resolution of 1080 by 2280 pixels, meaning a pixel density of around 400 pixels per inch. The display is sharp with good color reproduction and viewing angles. It gets quite bright as well, but since the panel itself is a bit too reflective, the viewing experience outdoors isn't very optimal. The lack of oleophobic coating also means we see as many smudges on the display as we do on the back. So Oppo loses points here. Where Oppo surprised me was with the camera. The images shot with a 16 megapixel f1.8 rear camera turned out impressive. There's a lot of detail and it's more evident on these macro shots. The colors are vivid and punchy. They're great to look at. The dynamic range is good too. There's a reasonable amount of detail visible in both highlights and shadows. The F7 is also capable of shooting portrait mode shots. The implementation is quite good despite the presence of just one camera. Mild issues with edge detection do crop up once in a while, but it's not too bad. Under low light, there's obviously some degradation in quality, but it still produces some nice pictures, especially when there's some light in the scene. Moving on, the 25 megapixel f2.0's front snapper is capable of getting some super crisp selfies. But the thing is, the phone needs to be relatively close to the face. It's a fixed focus camera with a relatively shallow depth of field, so it can't focus on our face if we are far away from the phone. So shots like these have my face blurred a bit. Or maybe it's just me, I've got long hands and this happens quite often to me. Nonetheless, it's a point worth noting. The selfies themselves are good, nice colors, natural skin tones, and reasonably good dynamic range. There's also a depth effect mode for portrait mode shots. The implementation is not bad, but it's no Pixel 2 either. The F7's video recording capabilities are rather lackluster. No 4K guys. No 4K in this segment in 2018 is almost unforgivable. Anyway, the quality of the 1080p footage is good. Once again, the color reproduction is natural, there is a reasonable amount of detail, and the dynamic range is okay. Now the camera interface offers a variety of functions. For starters, we have an expert mode, basically a manual mode with which you can get amazing shots like this. And then we have a super vivid mode for both rear and front cameras. And then AI beauty that figures out the amount of beautification required without making the resulting selfie look unnatural. Overall, the camera interface is rich and even quite simple to use. Talking about software, the F7 runs on ColorOS 5.0 based on Android 8.1 Oreo. I have a love-hate relationship with the software here. In other words, there are some positives and there are some negatives. Let's first get the pros out of the way. Oppo's crammed in a ton of features including 4 different gesture-based methods for navigation, all of which work flawlessly. A dedicated secure keyboard that automatically pops up when you enter confidential details, identification of spam calls from unknown numbers, various other gesture and motion-based features like Raise to Wake, which, along with Face Unlock, works really well. All that said, certain things really get to you, like not being able to change the wallpaper from the home screen, not being able to swipe away notifications. Yep, here you need to swipe and then tap delete. And then some minor glitches involving the notch. The software doesn't provide the perfect experience, but me personally, I did find myself getting used to it in the span of a week. But your mileage may vary, especially if you are coming from stock Android, this might not be your cup of tea. Now before we wrap up, let's have a look at the sundries. We've got a dual SIM tray and a dedicated micro SD card slot, which is very rare to find these days. The cellular reception and call quality were excellent, the earpiece gets really loud, so does the single bottom firing speaker. It's louder than speakers on most other phones. The rear-mounted fingerprint scanner is super fast and accurate, although I didn't use it much since the Raise to Wake plus Face Unlock combo worked wonders for me. Moving on, the F7 still stuck with micro USB. A very 2018 design, but micro USB? Anyway, with that, we get to price. The Oppo F7 comes in 3 colors and 2 RAM storage variants, 464 and 6128, and is priced at 21,990 rupees. At this price, Oppo's provided a phone with quite powerful internals. If the F7 was all about raw performance and never delivered in other aspects, I'd find it hard to recommend this phone, but given the excellent battery life, reasonably good camera performance, dedicated micro SD support and so on, I feel the asking price might be okay, especially if you like the software experience, at least for the 464 variant. The Note 5 Pro is a great alternative. Sure, it's not as powerful as the F7, but it's got a much better build and slightly better camera performance under low light. And more importantly, at 14K, it offers more value for your money. As for the 6128 variant of the F7, at 27,000 rupees, it's probably a hard sell. It gets too close to the View 10 OnePlus 5T territory. So those are my thoughts on the Oppo F7. Do you agree with what I've had to say? If you decide to get yourself an F7, please use the links in the description, it helps the channel out. Share this video with your friends and family who like Oppo or are looking for a phone in this price segment. Hit thumbs up if you liked the video, subscribe to C4E Tech for more like this. Hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified each time a video goes live on the channel. Thanks a lot for watching, this is Sundar from C4E Tech, leaving for the moment. Have a nice day.